Hey, crafty peeps. It's Lisa, your dollar mom, and I'm excited that you could come by today and check out this tutorial. Remember to like and subscribe and leave me a comment. Well, let's just get right to today's tutorial. I saw this cute farmhouse tissue box that popped up in my feed, and I thought I need to have this. So instead of buying it, I thought I might as well make it. So I purchased a piece of foam board from the Dollar Tree. Then I measured my tissue box, which was 4¼ inches square and 5 inches tall. Keep in mind, not all tissue boxes are the same size. Now for my side pieces, which I said were 4¼ inches, I went ahead and measured 4½ inches so that my side pieces would hang over a little bit because this is going to fit over the tissue box. And then I did 5 inches tall. I cut out 2 of those for each side. Now you'll see here in a minute I'm going to use my box cutter. But after a few cuts I struggled, and so I started using scissors, and I found that worked better for me. But either works. Now that my side pieces are cut, I'm going to cut the front and the back piece. I measure it again, held up to the tissue box so that I can make sure it's going to be big enough to fit over the box, but not too big that there's too much room in it. For my tissue box, I measured it 5 inches wide by 5½ inches tall. The front and back piece are a 1/2 inch taller than the side pieces because that is going to be the roof. So the front and back pieces are going to need to be a little taller. Now I'm cutting out the back piece. As you can see, I start to use scissors. I found it easier than the X-Acto knife. I lay all my pieces against the tissue box once again to make sure they're going to fit properly. Now I'm going to hot glue the pieces together. I didn't put too much glue down because I didn't want it to ooze out the sides. So be careful with how much glue you use. And then hold it sturdy for a few. You'll get to see my dogs in and out of the frames. That little black and white one's my puppy. Make sure that you are using the right pieces, 2 side pieces and a front and a back. You don't want to mix them up or it won't fit. Now I'm measuring for the roof. I measured a piece 6 inches by 4½ inches. And there's my other dog, my husky. Now I can get this big piece of foam out of my way. For the roof piece, I decided to cut it in half and cut it in half again, which basically means the 6-inch side goes down to 1.5 inches 4 ways. This part now you're going to glue the roof together. You're going to leave it soft enough to be moldable so that you can fit it over the roof. There's no exactness to this, it's just what feels and looks how you like it. Now I've decided to put my writing and drawing on the front piece. I'm doing this before I glue it on so that I have a nice flat surface and I don't have to worry about anything falling apart as I'm drawing on it. Even though I'm going to paint it, my thought process here was if I draw all this with a black Sharpie, hopefully it will show up through the paint. I can tell you that it did not show up through the paint. However, because I wrote with this pencil, the indentations did show up. And so that worked just as well because I could see where I had written. And now I can assemble everything together. Wipe off any excess glue so you don't get glumps everywhere. Check out my roof to make sure it's going to fit on there. Now I need to make the square so that the tissue has a place to come out. The square that I did is 2 inches and 1 inch on each side. So basically a 2-inch by 2-inch square. And now I can glue the roof on. Originally I was going to leave the opening in the roof because that's how it was on the box that was my design. I mean my inspiration. But I just didn't care for it. So I laid the tissue box on its side and just traced that opening. It was really easy just to trace it and cut out a piece. And I liked how that looked much better. Okay, now that everything is glued, I can get to painting. I made my own gray paint because I wanted it to be not a perfect color. Like, I wanted it to have some white and some black that might be left in different spots, as you can see on my tray. Yep, my dog. He's used to lots of attention. So I cover the whole thing in gray. Make sure as you're painting that you paint inside all the nooks and crannies, because when you glued this together it probably wasn't perfect, or at least it wasn't for me. So I made sure that I dipped my paintbrush down into each crack. And the nice thing about this is when foam core board, it actually kind of has a little bit of a texture. It's hard to get a smooth cut, but this is going to look rustic and you cannot tell after we've got it all painted. And here I am painting over the artwork. But like I said earlier, the indentations were still there, and so we were all good. Now it's time to give the tissue box a galvanized look. So first I dipped my brush into black paint. This is a fresh brush and it's dry. And I just start patting that all over. As you can see, it doesn't look so great at first. Then I go back in and I go pick up some white. Oh no, I'm picking up some gray. Tap some gray over that black. And I'm just going to continue this until I get the look that I like. The nice thing is if you get a spot too dark, you can just tap some light color over the top. If you get a spot too light, you can just tap some darker color back over it. So just between the three colors, I go back and forth, tapping and sponging. You're definitely going to want a sponge type brush to do this. Hi, Kita, I see ya. Okay, now that you see how I've done one side, I went ahead and I did all the rest of the sides. And there we go. It gives it a galvanized look. Amazing what some paint and some foam board can do. Now I'm going to put my design back on the front. I typically like my handwriting, but for whatever reason with this project, after it was all done, I just didn't love the way I wrote on it. So the cool thing is I had a couple choices. One, I could paint over it and try again. Or what I did do is I flipped it around and I used some stickers I had in my craft stash and did that instead. Ideally, I would use a Cricut and print out what I want it to say, but I wanted to make this DIY affordable. It really only costs $1 and some paint. And now, the moment of truth. Hopefully, this fits over the top and works like a charm. And it fits over perfect, just tight enough that when you pull on your tissue, it comes right out. I love how this turned out. Let me know in the comments which one you liked better. The black writing, like this, or do you like the white alphabet stickers I used instead? I'm leaning towards the white stickers. Thank you so much for coming and watching my very first YouTube DIY tutorial. You can find me on Instagram as $_mom. I'll see you next time.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to my mom.